Alright guys, so we got ourselves an explicit form as the geometric sequence, and they give you the first term, they give you the common ratio, and to do this one guys, we actually need to know the formula to write an geometric sequence in explicit form. It's not that different from the other lessons, but just bear with me. So we could call it any letter you want in the beginning. Let's call it C of n. Remember, the C is just the letter, the n represents the actual term number. Right? What's term in the sequence are you talking about? And this could be equal to. So here we go. We start with the first term. The first term goes first. And then you multiply it times whatever is your common ratio. What do I mean by common ratio? Common ratio is basically like the common difference, but we call it common ratio because we multiply this number over and over. Instead of adding or subtracting like an arithmetic sequence, in geometric we only multiply. And the last thing we do, we put a parentheses, right? And it's to the power of n minus 1. So the n minus 1 goes on top. So if we were to use this information, then we can actually write it. C of n equals, our first term in this example, it's 168 times, and we know our common ratio. Our common ratio right now, it's 1/2. So we can do 1/2 to the power of n minus 1. And that is how you write the explicit form. However, there's a catch. As our other explicit form, there's actually two ways to write this, which is why we need to practice our 8th grade review. If you didn't see our video about the 8th grade review, scroll up a little bit or watch the previous video so you can see it and review what you need to know for this. So let's talk about this. C of n equals, well, we're going to use this equation. All we're going to do is simplify it. So let's begin. We know that 168 is going to be here, times. Now, if you remember the rules of exponents, whenever you have two exponents on top, like n plus 1, n minus 1, you know you can split them by doing this. This could be 1/2 to the power of n times, we could do parentheses, 1/2 to the power of -1. We reviewed in our previous video that when you have the same base or the same number at the bottom, these two get combined, either n minus 1, n plus 1, whatever these exponents are. What we did right now, we just distributed them. We just split them out. So let's rewrite it at the bottom. So we have 168 times, I'm going to leave the first one alone, 1/2 to the power of n. And the other one, remember, if I wanted to distribute this -1, there's actually a power of 1 here, a power of 1 here. So what happens when we have an exponent on top of another exponent? It gets multiplied. Times 1 to the power of -1 over 2 to the power of -1. You see that? And the last step, guys, let's keep going. 168 times, let's bring everything down to the 1/2 parentheses n. Now, how do I make this and this positive? Remember, it's not reciprocal technically. All we do is, if this needs to be positive, we move everything and we move that down. If I want this to be positive, I move that up. So in other words, I have this now. 2 to the power of 1 over 1 to the power of 1. Everybody okay? Let's keep going. So we have 168 times. And again, it's not that confusing. I'm just writing everything down so there is no unanswered questions. Well, 2 to the power of 1, isn't that just a 2? And 1 to the power of 1, isn't that just a 1? So do I really need to write the 1 at the bottom? Not really. Last step, guys. I have 168 times this crazy fraction with exponent times a 2. What can I combine? Well, I can combine the 168 and the 2. So what is 168 times 2? That gives us 336 times 1/2 to the power of n minus 1. And that is another way you can write this explicit form. So I'm going to collect this. This is number 2. Again, there's both of them are important because you might see either number 1 or number 2 on the homework. So make sure you know how to find both. All right. For example, on homework where you have to compare which student is right, all you have to do is, you might see this example, you might see this version, or you might see this version. It's up to you to find out which one is right, and you need to check by just plugging them in. And oh, one more thing, guys, I forgot, there's no more n minus 1 there. It's just an n, right? Because we got rid of it. So glad I caught that. Again, that's number 1, and that's number 2. 2 different versions for the explicit form.